Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Good, good. How are you?
Hey, not bad. This is the Fantasy Forecast with Grindberg and Biggs. This is running backs you're going to avoid on ESPN and Yahoo. Producer.
Welcome to the Fantasy Forecast with Grindberg and Biggs. Biggs is still on assignment. So we have Schulte here for a trio of shows this week, and we're happy to have Schulte back. He's done an amicable job of filling in for Biggs over the last two assignments. Now today is his last one. How you doing, Schulte? How you feeling about your new gig?
Well, I'm the big stunt double. I can live with that. I think that's pretty cool.
You're a very good looking stunt double, if you ask me. I'm gonna have to say, I wouldn't say it's an improvement over my partner, but
No, definitely not.
at least a lateral move, we'll say. So today, folks, we're talking about, we talked about ADP and we're talking about Yahoo leagues. We talked about last week. Our last episode, we got into the wide receivers. The previous episode, we got into quarterbacks. Today, we're going to be talking about the running backs that I want you to avoid in Yahoo leagues, sitting at their ADP. And the first one I'm going to deep into here is pretty controversial. People have them highly touted, but there's some reason to speculate at this stage, and I'm talking about avoiding Jahmyr Gibbs in the early rounds of your draft this year, mainly due to because of his recent hamstring injury and concerns about his role in the Lions' backfield. Gibbs suffered a hamstring injury at training camp, and that's a re-aggravation from one that has been lingering since May. So that is not good news. If Gibbs misses any sort of start to this season, his absence will create opportunities for guys like David Montgomery, Craig Reynolds. We know this already. It happened last year. But even if Gibbs managed to return in time for the season opener, his current injury situation adds a layer of risk as drafting him as a top 10 running back. In fantasy leagues, especially PPR formats, Gibbs was expected to be a mid-range RB1 based off of his promising rookie year, where he finished as the RB10 in PPR points. However, the uncertainty around his health, his availability, makes it wise to reconsider his value in the early rounds. Gibbs' efficiency and explosive playmaking ability are impressive, but his value is closely tied to his volume of touches, which remains a concern. While he averaged 5.4 yards per touch and has a high rate of long carries last season, his overall workload was limited. His efficiency, while notable, may not be enough to justify drafting him of other proven workhorses like Bijan, Breece Hall, even Jonathan Taylor. At this stage, I'm drafting even Travis Etienne ahead of him with this new hamstring injury. Gibbs is currently being drafted as the RB6 overall, which places him ahead of other backs like Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, both of whom will likely receive more touches and offer more security. Given that Gibbs may not handle a massive workload right out of the gate, his potential ceiling could be capped compared to other top running backs. Gibbs certainly has explosive upside and can make the most of his touches. The risk associated with his injury, his role in a timeshare, makes him less appealing to me in the early rounds. There are safer choices available who offer a more reliable workload and less injury risk, making them a better pick for your fantasy team. Schulte, you in or out after this hammy injury?
Out after, because you mentioned, I think the biggest thing for me is the re-aggravation here. So we see hamstring injuries. They can kind of linger and really, really hamper a dude for long term. And like, you don't, depending on the severity, sometimes you don't see guys hit full recovery for 6, 7, 8 weeks, Um, and when you're drafting this high and putting that capital into these dudes, that's the kind of thing that will absolutely blow up your season from the start. So yeah, I don't really want any Gibbs at cost right now. largely due to the injury. I'm not as concerned with some of the workload stuff or, some of those other things. I think he's going to be third in that passing offense in targets. And as he'll get his rushes as well. So I think for me, it's mainly the hamstring. And once again, hammering home that it's a re-aggravation. And then the other thing that concerns me with it is they were talking about potential ACL stuff as a result of the hamstring injuries. I don't know, man. That's just some scary stuff that I'm avoiding at the 1-2 turn.
Well, exactly. And especially even if he starts the season just a little bit slower, that's going to offset his draft capital. To be honest there, it's so tight within that top tier of guys there that, a little less of a jump start out of the gate could turn RB6 into an RB8 or 9 season. And that's what I'm predicting here now.
He doesn't really have the buffer room. He needs everything to go right.
Yeah, exactly. All right, folks, if you're ready to level up your fantasy sports game, join the Fantasy Sports Advice Network, your go-to top-notch fantasy sports and gaming insights. Skip the noise of Twitter and Reddit. Enjoy genuine sports talk without bots and ads. Dive into high-quality discussions and elevate your fantasy experience. Explore polls, league classifieds, and curated content from our creators. Articles, videos, and podcasts, they're all in one place. Get expert advice, earn rewards, and make an impact with your sports knowledge. Join our passionate community and unlock your fantasy sports potential. Visit this Fantasy Sports Advice Network and download our app and start winning. Now, let's get into another guy that I'm going to be avoiding, and this is a middle round avoid, and people are all over this guy because of the history, the past, but I'm going to tell you need to avoid Ezekiel Elliott in the middle rounds of the drafts this year due to these key concerns. After a disappointing stint with the New England Patriots, Elliott, who once dominated as a top NFL running back, now appears to be a shadow of his former self. Last season, he averaged 3.5 yards per carry and finished as the RB32, generating only 8.8 half-point PPR points per game. This significant drop in performance makes it hard to justify taking a chance on him. The situation in Dallas only adds to the uncertainty surrounding Elliott, with Tony Pollard's departure to the Titans and the Cowboys bringing back Elliott alongside re-signing Rico Dowdle. The backfield is in flux. Who had a modest role last season is reported to be the favorite to start in Dowdle. Dowdle is a favorite to start right now, and I like that situation. The Cowboys did not invest any draft capital in the running back position, which suggests they may be looking elsewhere as well. There's some guys out there that might be able to come in and fill in a role, but the potential for the Dallas to trade for a more impact running back, like maybe Javonte Williams, potentially Miles Sanders, maybe Chuba Hubbard. There's guys that have been floating around here that could come in and easily surpass Elliott. So while Elliott has a history of strong performance, his recent struggles and the evolving backfield situation in Dallas make him a less appealing option in the middle rounds, with younger, potentially more dynamic players like Rico Dowdle available and the possibility of a high-profile trade. There are better choices for fantasy gamers looking to invest in the running back this season. That is why I'm out on Ezekiel Elliott this year.
Yeah, I'm out too, man. Now let's say the suspense. The juice is gone. He's been squeezed. He may have some touchdown equity here. Other than that, give me Dowdle all the way in this room. And You mentioned it that. I mean, props to you for bringing this up, because I was gonna mention it. Let's not forget, the Cowboys are a perfect candidate to bring someone from the outside in, like you mentioned, and that's another. And if they're gonna do it, they're gonna do it because they think it's a guy who can make a good contribution. I don't think they're going to do it just to fill some back end here. So yeah, I'm out big time.
Okay, so my last guy here is starting to get some buzz in camp, and I'm going to squash that buzz because I'm out. There's nothing you can tell me. I get it. I get the buzz around him, but I'm avoiding Bucky Irving in the later rounds of the draft this year, and there are several red flags. Despite having a strong college career with over 1,000 yards and 35 catches in each season at Oregon, he led all running backs with receptions last year. His combine performance, however, was disappointing. Irving's size, 5'9", 192 pounds, was already a concern, and his combine results, such as a slow 4.55 40-yard dash and mediocre vertical and broad jumps, only added to my worries. The poor showing suggests he may struggle to secure a significant role in the NFL, potentially limiting the chains of pace and third down back. Additionally, Irving's injury history and size further complicate his value. While he has shown burst and the ability to make plays, his hamstring injury and less than ideal combine results cast a doubt on his ability to handle a high volume workload. Compared to later round options like Roschon Johnson, Ray Davis, Tyrone Tracy, Braylon Allen, and Jalen Wright, Irving's upside seems more limited. These players offer more potential if the starters in their backfield go down, whereas Irving's future role is uncertain due to his physical limitations and injury concerns. Even if he does land a spot, on the Buccaneers, it's unlikely he will be the lead back, making him even riskier. Bucky Irving has some appealing qualities. His injury history, poor combine performance, and smaller size make him a riskier pick in the later rounds. Therefore, there are safer options with more upside to have potential to lead an NFL backfield. So I'm staying away from Irving this draft season. What are your thoughts, Schultze?
You know what? I'm glad that we get to disagree on one here. I like Bucky Irving. I have since rookie draft season. I have drafted him in one of my main dynasty leagues. I get the concerns, but I think part of this is putting a little too much stock into the combine sometimes. I think the combine is a super great tool to use most of the time. But sometimes you can take other contexts and maybe think, hey, some of these dudes just, not in pads, not an actual game, like they don't produce their best. That's like a real thing with some guys. And I think Bucky Irving's one of those dudes. He clocked over 21 miles an hour game speed over 5 times at Oregon this last season, and led the Pac-12 in missed tackles forced. Now, missed tackles forced, when you can make dudes miss, well, one, you can't teach a dude this. And if you look back at some of the prior drafts at the top of making the missed tackles forced, you're looking at names like Travis Etienne, Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker. These are all dudes who led the league or led the nation in college and forcing missed tackles. Bucky Irving can do that. He's a natural receiver. You're going to, and I'm just not convinced in Rachaad White. I never have, and I never will be. His main merit is volume. It always has been volume. And they got rid of Dave Canales, who one of Dave Canales' big things is hammering one running back. So I think Bucky Irving's going to work his way on the field. He already looked good in his first preseason game. He just looks pretty natural to me. He's got some nice vision. He scored a touchdown on a really nice run. I really like Bucky Irving. I think he's going to force his way on the field. And where he's getting drafted, not many of these dudes around him are cemented as the running back 2 on their team. Like where Irving's getting drafted, you're drafting running back 3s on their respective team, sometimes even. So he's a direct handcuff to Rachaad White, and he's getting drafted super late. So I'm in on him.
I don't think he's the direct handcuff with his size. I mean, he's 5'8", 192. He's not going to go in and handle a full workload if Rachaad White were to go down. He'll just continue his complementary back role. But when I'm talking about guys like Roschon Johnson, Ray Davis, Tyrone Chasey, Balin Allen, Jalen Wright, all these guys, if an injury happens to the number one guy, they're going in and they are taking that number one role. And that's what I'm looking for in these type of situations. I don't care about a complimentary back at that stage. I want a guy that can go in the later rounds and fill the starting role if the starter goes down. And that's the upside I'm looking for. I get your take on Bucky Irving. I think he's going to be okay in, a complimentary role. He'll get the upside games where he might get a 4 to 5, reception game to go for like 45, 50 yards and potentially, break a touchdown, but they're going to be hard to predict those games. And, Rachaad White is going to be their bell cow. So that, if anything, it hurts Rachaad White's value having Bucky Irving be a complimentary guy, but I can't see him going in and taking the role if Rachaad White goes down just based off of his size.
I don't know if he would necessarily, go that hard as like full bell cow mode, but I think he would still get a solid uptick. I really think Bucky Irving is just a gamer, as lame as it sounds. I just think this guy's going to force his way on the field.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it because, it's important that you have some stance in fantasy football because not everybody's right. Not everybody's take is going to be there. So it's important to have some conflict there. And, maybe I'm going to look into Bucky Irving a little bit more now that Schultze's opened my eyes. So, yeah. Thanks, everybody, for a great show. We went over Yahoo's ADPs. We had some good discussions about running backs and hopefully help you folks get to the next level in your leagues. If you want to continue to get into the next level of your leagues, don't forget to join the Fantasy Sports Advice Network, the app there. It's all-encompassing community where you can get your questions answered by fantasy football analysts. Schultze, want to tell everybody about your new show airing on Monday?
Ooh, baby. Couple we see not this Monday, but the following Monday. Well, no, hold on. I may have screwed things up because when this airs, let's get a date here. Monday,
26th.
The 26th, we will be running the pilot. It's just going to be a Monday night post-game show recap, kind of reactionary, shooting the shit about what happened, man. Just come hang out. Let's hit some live chat questions. Let's talk about some of the heartbreaks you had, some of the stupid decisions you made, and have a good time.
Sweet, man. That's awesome. I can't wait to see it. And I'll be one of the first people to, cry my worries away when Bucky Irving crushes on week 1. So,
ooh, I love that.
Yeah. All right, folks. Thanks for joining the Fantasy Forecast of Grindberg and Biggs. Biggs will be back our next episode. We'll be crushing it. So from all of us at the Fantasy Football Advice Network and the Fantasy Forecast, we hope you win.
We hope you win.